Good morning, everyone. We're here for week 78 of the Life of Christ. We are now getting into the Last Supper, so we're slowly getting to the end of the book, end of the story. But we're going to be in John chapter 13 this morning. And I will also be in Luke 22 at one point. So if you'll just kind of, find your place there. That way you can kind of flip over if you need to and won't be having to wait too long and switch it over. Last week, when we were teaching, we were talking about Judas. He already had set to betray Christ, already made the plan for 30 pieces of silver, or the equivalent to $91 to $441. Not a lot of money for betraying somebody. If I'm going to betray you, I want it to be millions or billions. But, it wasn't. Not that I would betray you. I'm just saying if I was going to do it, I would make it worth my while here, okay? And we talked about how that Jesus was able to, being omnipotent because he's God, or all omniscient because he's God, knew what was going to happen, told them to go find a certain person carrying some water and tell them that you want to make preparations for the Passover, and that's what they did. They found this person, they were doing it. We talked a little bit about the fact that Peter was going to deny Jesus. We've got a few of those things kind of put into perspective there. Now we're going to go into the Last Supper itself. John chapter 13, verses 1 to 5. Let me put my notifications on. Church mode, so I don't have to hear message boards going off. John chapter 13, verses 1 to 5, we'll start out with. It was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. The Last Supper is a significant point to the life of Christ, because it's here that we really get to see Jesus's heart for his disciples, and his heart for us too. The Last Supper is the last intimate moment that he was going to have with the 12. This was, typically they would have a lot of times that they would be together with other people that were following him, but this is just the 12 of them in the room plus Jesus, and that's it. This is his last moment to really, before he was to be crucified, last moment to really have any kind of interaction with them, any kind of teaching. And he uses that moment to actually teach them. And that's what's amazing about Jesus is that he took advantage of every moment he could. And I think we all could learn from that lesson that I know that we're not God and that we're not as perfect as Jesus by no means. But I think we should use every opportunity that we can to try to share Christ with others, to do things for God, to work for him. Because as we do that, we're making the best of the time that he's given us. His last intimate moment Jesus had with his disciples, it would be his last chance to minister to them before his death, burial, and resurrection. And verse 1 says, Jesus knew his hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. He knew it was about to happen. He had that deep knowledge. And you know, honestly, I think if any of us knew it was our last moment, I think we would be nervous about it. I think we would be anxious about it. I think that, you know, we would sit back and maybe we would be at peace because God has revealed it to us and God is there with us. But you can't help but think that there wouldn't be a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of anxiety there. We know that Jesus felt some of that because when we get into the garden, we'll find that in the garden that he was even, you know, he was distraught there. He even sweat as drops of blood. So, you know, we see that kind of moment that he was having there, and now he's here with the disciples. He knows his hour is going to come, and Judas had already agreed to betray him for the 30 pieces of silver, and no one among the 12 knew about that plan, just Judas, and we know Jesus did. John tells us that verse 2 and 3, that he tells us that while the evening meal was in progress, Satan had prompted Judas to betray Jesus, and that Jesus knew what he was about to do. And I think it's really kind of interesting to note because I think Judas made a decision to go to the high priests and say, I will be betrayed, but the final has not been done. He could have still backed out of it at this point. So he had a moment where he went and he talked to them about betraying Jesus. He still has not pulled the trigger at this point and actually betrayed him. He still could back out of it if he really wanted to. Probably not without some kind of repercussions, but you know, he could have backed out if he wanted to. And we now notice here in verses 2 and 3 that Satan prompted him to betray Jesus. So it's not letting go. It's still holding on. And Jesus himself knew what he was about to do. But Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he came from God and he would be returning to God. Now, let's think about that for a minute. How many times have we been in situations where we know things aren't going to go well and we just fell apart because of it? You know, I mean, we sit back and we get bad news and we know that, you know, and we just wonder if we're really going to make it. And Jesus we see Jesus here. He said, well, he was Jesus. He was God. Okay, yes, I get that. But he was in the flesh. He had the same emotions you and I have. He had the same feelings that we do. He was tempted just like we are. So if Jesus was tempted and didn't fail, and Jesus was, you know, he feels what we feel, knows what we feel, you stop and think about this for a minute. He knew this was about to happen, but then John makes a point, but he knew that the Father had put all things under his power. Now stop. Your situation that you were about to fall apart in, is it not under God's power? Yet so often we forget that, don't we? We really do. And I admit, me myself, I forget that sometimes. I got a bottle of Klonopin out in the car to prove it. Okay? If y'all see me disappear later, it's because I had to go take one. But you know, what I'm saying is, church, is that we have to understand that in our lives, we've got to remember that God has it all under his control. Well, why ain't he fixed it? I don't know. Probably because you still got a lesson to learn. And he wants to, but you ain't got there yet. You know, I've had this conversation with people. You know, they get say, well, why don't you just take away my desire for drugs? Why don't you just take away my desire for alcohol? Why don't you just take away my desire to sin? He could. But how are you going to grow that way? All right, back up. I'm going to quit preaching. God had put all things under his power, and that he came from God, and he would be returning to God. So he knew the whole plan. Now, okay, he's an advantage. He does know the plan. What about us when we don't know the plan? Go back to remembering that God is in control. You might not know the plan, but he does. Trust it.
That's my biggest thing. I like to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like surprises.
You and I are kind of alike when it comes to that. I'm a control freak to a degree because I don't like to be surprised. You can ask anybody in here that's ever done it, and they've been a few of them have done it, and a couple of them have done it on purpose. If you walk in my office or walk up to me before church and go, Pastor, I need to talk to you about something after church. No, you're in my office right now. We ain't doing this. Because I'm not going to spend my entire time up here in the pulpit sitting going, oh my God, what's falling apart? I'm not doing it. No, I ain't happening.
I said I was sorry. I didn't have to.
Well, we know you're sorry, but that's a different story altogether. I don't, but you ask anybody. Now, a couple of you have learned. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. It's something that I'm going through or whatever, and I need to talk to you about it later. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you that. We'll wait till I'm done up here. But if I think the world is about to fall apart, I'm going to take the bull by the horns. I'm going to grab a hold of it, and then we're going to have a wrestling match to get it done. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Let's get it. But the reality is, church, that's, I don't like those surprises.
I made you nervous just this morning.
Oh, yeah. Other than there, she says, I got something I need to talk to you about. And she was going to tell me right then. I'm looking at her like, okay. Then she said, well, it's about, and I said, she saw me soften. She said, I had you a little on edge there for a second, didn't I? I said, yeah, you still got me there. You ain't totally got me out of it yet. But we got to trust God. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the things that we go through are helping us to learn to trust him. So we see that the next thing that happens is that Jesus washes the disciples' feet. If I'm not mistaken, don't hold me to this because I didn't go back and verify it, but I'm pretty sure that John is the only one that records this story. And I think that it's a very beautiful picture. John is proving in the book of John, his whole point is to prove that he is God. Jesus is God. In the beginning, in the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was with God. And then verse 14 says the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. His whole point is bringing it to that kind of conclusion. So we know him as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He was their teacher. He was their rabbi. He's the Son of God. He's the Messiah. God come in the flesh. This King of Kings, this Lord of Lords, takes off his outer cloak, wraps a towel around his waist, gets down and washes the feet of the 12 disciples. There ain't a king in this world that would do that. There ain't nobody in that kind of authority and power that would do that. I won't say that. There could be somebody. But for the most part, that's not what a king thinks he should be.
That shows you the love he has for us, you know?
Exactly. It's beautiful. The picture of his heart. He gets up from that table. He does this. And you got to keep in mind, this was not like an honor to do this. This was a menial task that was held and done by servants, the lower class. Their job was to wash the feet. You have to keep in mind, they could have had a bath, but they'd still get their feet washed when they come in because they wore sandals. It was dusty. It was dirty. They would come into a place, and one of the first things they would do is wash the feet. There were no servants here. Nobody else had stepped up to even think about it. But Jesus did. And he got down and he washed those 12 men's feet. And, he washed them all, including Judas. Judas is one of them. Every one of them. But when Peter's turn comes, of course, it's got to be different. Peter is never, ever going to make it easy. Reminds me of some church members. Verses 1-5 says, he came to Simon Peter, verse 6, I'm sorry. Verse 6, he says, he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Notice he calls him Lord. Are you going to wash my feet? Now, most of us would be, I think, with a servant's heart and willing to do what God wants us to do. You'd be like, no, this is not your place. This is my place. Well, my first thought process is, if it was your place, why didn't you do it when you first got there anyway? Why did you wait for Jesus to pick up the towel and the pitcher of water? But here he is, Peter. Going to be Peter. We got some Peters in this room. Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you do not realize what I am doing, but later you will understand. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. I don't know why he thinks he's got to be in charge. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. Jesus answered, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean. Though not every one of you, for he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. And when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So Peter, you going to wash my feet? No. You can't do that. You're my Lord. You're my rabbi. You're my teacher. It should be the other way around. I should be washing your feet. And then Jesus tells him, unless I wash your feet, wash you, I have no part with you. And, that statement was about what is about to happen, because Jesus is washing us clean of our sins with his blood. While this is not really an ordinance of the church, some churches do make this as an ordinance, foot washing. It isn't really about the blood of Jesus so much, but he does talk about the fact that, unless I cleanse you, you'll have no part with me. Now, we see Peter's heart at that point, because Peter's like, then wash everything. Because, I want to be a part of you. I don't want to be separated from you. And, that our mindset needs to be just that. God, I don't want to be separated from you. I want to do what it takes to stay close to you, to have that relationship with you. So, But Jesus made that statement to also to point out that not all of them were clean, because Judas was about to betray him. He then teaches them, "Do you not understand what I've done for you? Call me teacher, Lord, because that's what I am. But as your Lord and teacher, I have set an example as I wash your feet, and you should do the same. No servant is greater than his master." Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. That's one of the things that I've always been big on is that we have to learn to serve before we can lead. Because in the church, because in order to lead, we have to be servants. We're not pastors, teachers, leaders are not lords over the people. They are servants to the people. And I think all of us sometimes are challenged, because we don't really, always want to have that mentality, It's, I'll be honest with you, just to give you an example, and it's not tooting, but when we have dinners, if you watch the dinners, if you watch me, when we have a church dinner, I let everybody in the church go through the line to eat. Then when everybody has gone through, and I have to fight with Larry for this position because he fights me for it every time, and I usually end up having to go before Larry because he will not let it happen, then I go through the line and eat. Why do I do that?
Make sure everybody's taken care of first.
Make sure everybody's taken care of first. I'm watching the food to make sure that we got enough food for everybody. And then that way, if I go through and there's no ham left, I'll be the one without the ham.
Larry will be.
No, Larry would be. Yeah, you're right. I might save him a piece. Although, if it's Dave's, I probably will save his life if I don't let him have it.
Without him, you are the ham.
Always make sure we have it.
Yeah. What?
I said, we do without him, you are the ham.
Exactly. Then you all pull Pastor Appreciation, which I greatly appreciate. I don't know if I even got to really tell you how much I appreciate it. But, we had Pastor Appreciation. And you all were like, no, you're going through the line first.
Well, it was your day.
I know. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that. You all put me to do that. But, it feels odd.
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy that always waits till the end because I want to make sure. And I'm up there and I'm like, are we going to have enough? Is everybody going to be okay?
We always have enough.
Oh, we do.
We always make sure that was
But, that's my mindset. We've got to have that as leaders because we have to love the people. Now, listen, I don't put up with stuff. Y'all know that. There's been several of you that have been in my office when I've had to chew you out for something because you've not acted right. You've not done right. But at the same time, I do it because I love you. Now, I ain't Jesus. I ain't perfect. Could you imagine being in that room that day and having to sit there and let him wash your feet? Now, some of you in here, you'd be like, wait a minute, let me go apply my Lotrimin or whatever it's called and get me some foot powders and, air freshener, yeah. But he didn't worry about that. All he was worried about was loving and serving. I have run out of time. I think this is a good spot to stop rather than try to push it. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, every time I hear that, I think of where Jesus said, love your enemies.
Uh-huh.
Because he loved worship. His disciples feet that was going to turn him in.
Uh-huh.
That shows a good example of how much you love, to love your enemy.
Yeah.
I think of that every time I see that, you read that.
And I had never really thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right. I mean, he loved him even though he knew he was going to betray him. He took that moment. And I actually, I've done the Living Last Supper as part of a Easter play, and I've directed it. And that's one of the things that I have is an interaction between Judas and Jesus whenever he washes his feet. Because the reality is that Jesus knows and Judas knows he knows. And unfortunately, this is going to happen one way or the other. But Jesus loved him, cared for him. Got to love our enemies. We can't despise them. We've got to love them.
That goes back to the saying that you love the person, but don't love the sin.
Yeah.
I love them from a distance.
I don't know why you would use the word love in that sentence, but
Those sayings, keep your friends, keep your enemies.
yeah. All right. Any more questions or comments? All right. God bless.
That's what I was saying.